What's going on, guys? We are done with the first weekend of NA, but I really wanted to hit on the pro power rankings and kind of explain them in more detail because we saw them on the pre-show, but if you missed that, we can show you what that looks like now. So, we're going to talk about the pro power rankings, where they got it wrong, where they got it right, and it'll kind of work as a pseudo recap video as well for the North American weekend. So if you don't want to be spoiled, probably shouldn't watch this, but I think most people just tune in live. So let's get right into it. We're going to look at the thing now. Here we go. So here's the power rankings, and here's how I entered it. I asked all the teams to submit one entry before the qualifier weekend number one. I think a couple put it in like in the middle of that qualifier weekend one, but it wasn't really a big deal. So I asked for one entry per team and to have them rank teams 1 through 10. I didn't ask them to remove themselves because honestly, pros are not going to read, and there'll be at least 2 or 3, right? That would include themselves anyway. So instead, I just remove them afterwards because every single team, including themselves, they're all going to include themselves at a higher rank than their peers put them, right? Because they're obviously going to be confident, right? The only team that didn't put themselves was M80. And I'll get into the reason why Pirates is here at 10.0 for that reason. So basically, the pros ranked 1 through 9, and then I gave a rank of 10 for everyone else. Except for M80, I kept their 10th pick in because I thought it was a nice honorable mention. Not a lot of teams were ranked, as you can see here. Only 13 teams actually got a rank in. One funny story for the Muffin Men and why they are on this sheet, and sorry about the logos and stuff like that. Production was... It was the first weekend. We're working out the kinks. But the reason why Muffin Man is on this list, but they don't technically have a number, is because Mist actually submitted the energy list. And then Garrett G 2 days later, he put in a list. And it was basically the same, so I didn't really worry about Garrett G's picks. But I would normally like average them and just make him one entry for the energy team. But Garrett G actually put 2 teams at number 10. And one of them was Muffin Men. So I was like, I'm going to count that as an honorable mention. I don't know if that's, legit. So I counted it as an honorable mention. Obviously, his former teammate, Squishy, on that team, showing love out to him. So I added them as an honorable mention. And then as we go up the list, we'll talk about it a bit here. So Pirates was the 10th ranked team by M80. So they were the ones that did not rank themselves, so I included their 10th pick, and which is why Pirates is there. And then as you move up the list, we have Plot Twist was only ranked by one team, and that was at number 9. I won't give you the specifics necessarily of teams because I didn't really ask them if they wanted this to be public knowledge or not. I'll probably leak some here or there that are not like controversial or whatever throughout pre-shows and all that stuff. So make sure you're catching the full shows on the weekend. But Plot Twist, then we have Omelet, who didn't even make it out of the open qualifier portion. They were ranked by 3 teams at number 9. And then TSM was the next one ranked. TSM, the highest rank they received was a 7. And then they had 4 teams not rank them as their lowest rank. So only one team ranked them that high. 4 teams didn't rank them, but everyone else was in that 8 to 9 range. As you can see, they're ranking right there, 8.9. A lot of 8s came out for TSM. NRG was the next one on the list. NRG, I believe, was ranked by everyone but one team did not rank them. And most of them were 7 was the highest. So it was sprinkled around 7, 8, 9 across the board there. So moving on to Luminasi, that they were ranked by every single team. They didn't even get a 9th place ranking. Their lowest was 8. Their highest was 5 by one team. M80 was the next one on the list, and they got unranked by one team, which was kind of surprising, and their highest was a 4 by one team. So they were kind of sprinkled around everywhere. So they got to number 7. There's a big gap, though, after them for Rebellion and Dignitas tied at 5th. Rebellion, lowest rank they received was an 8. The highest rank they received was actually 3 by 2 teams. So pretty high for them. And then Dignitas, their lowest ranked was 7. And their highest rank was actually 2 by 2 teams. It's just their weights were a little bit lower, like across the board. A lot of teams that ranked maybe a Rebellion 4 had Dig at 5. So that's where they kind of fell back down. But yeah, Dig was ranked very highly by 2 teams. And, 2 teams ranked them low as well. But so Dig and Rebellion, kind of a different tale, where Dig's highs are higher and their lows are lower. But more people weighted them on the back half. So it tied with Rebellion. Then you got OG Esports, who went 0-3 in the Swiss. So this is the one spot where the pros got completely wrong. And that's only one qualifier, right? OG could easily bounce back, and I think a lot of people will probably will predict them to make it at least to the top 8 round because of what the pros think. And OG, I guess, doing very well in scrims. 4.66, basically one spot better than Dig and Rebellion. And they, let me see where their ranks are. Their highest was 3. Their lowest was 6. Most people had them 3 or 4. 3s twice, 4 a bunch of times, and 5 as well was sprinkled in there. But these 3 teams, I guess you can't see my mouse, but I thought you would be able to. But these 3 teams, 4, 5, and 6, very, very close. Like essentially a 3-way tie. Space Station was the next one ranked. Their highest was a 3. They never got a 2, but most of them were 3s. So Dignitas was the only one to get into that top 2 range, and obviously, so I'm going to spoil this for you, but the only way they can get into the top 2 range, because Gen.g and G2 got all the 1 and 2 votes, except when they had to rank themselves, right? Because they aren't included in their own lists. So on both of their lists, the 2 best teams in North America, Gen.g and G2, ranked Dignitas number 2, but they still fell to 5th. So the very best teams feared Dignitas a lot, but everyone else feared maybe a Space Station more and had them up much higher on their list. So Space Station, a pretty nice gap there between 3 and 4, and even 3 and 2. And obviously, yeah, top 2, Gen.g and G2. There was 12 votes total. Both of them put a vote in. So that means 10 team votes for 1 or 2 for Gen.g and G2. And they were always a 1 or 2. I'm sorry. I guess I didn't put 0 in for theirs. I think their average is just based on the other 11 picks, because they put, so Gen.g obviously put G2 number 1, G2 put Gen.g number 1. That's why it's not 1.5. They both got 1 extra vote at number 1. So that's how this pro power ranking list went. So essentially, the pros also think there's a big gap between the top 2 versus everyone else. And that showed in this qualifier. They think Space Station is a pretty strong 3rd, but that's everyone else. Everyone else thinks they're a pretty strong 3rd, except for the top 2 teams who actually think Dignitas is. And then you got the OG, Dig, and Rebellion as that next tier. Then you got the M80, Luminosity, NRG as, I guess, a tier. It's mostly just M80 and Luminosity. And then you move down, and it's like Energy, TSM, Omelet, Plot Twist, Pyrus. They're all like on that lower end. So I think the expected top 8 will always be what's on that left column. And then if there's any surprises, usually we'll probably only get 1, maybe 2, right? For this first qualifier, we got Pirates, who made the top 8, but OG got bounced out. OG, though, was a huge surprise being 0-3. I think no one expected that. I think everyone expects that if this top 8 does not make it in, then they will probably fall in the 2-2 round. They'll probably just get an unfortunate draw where maybe they even start 2-0, have to play really tough teams, lose 2 in a row, fall down, and in that 2-2 round, they get bounced out in a one-and-done match versus one of these other teams on the right side. So that's how it went down. That's how the pros ranked. It'll be interesting to see how this unfolds throughout. But it is pretty interesting that, like, what's most important, like, are those top 4 spots, because those are major spots. OG was considered a major team. And at this point, OG's not making major. I think they very likely will need back-to-back grand finals, and they probably will need a little bit more, or they'll need more help from other teams bouncing out. So OG very likely not making major after that last place finish, but who knows? Maybe they make back-to-back grand finals. Maybe they win a regional. You never know. The pros seem to like them enough to put them in that top 4 category. Then you're just 2 wins away, right? Just 2 upsets, maybe get a nice little bracket. So we'll see how it all plays out. But that is what the pros thought the power rankings are of the North America, who the best North America teams are at the beginning of the year. And I'm very excited when we're all done with Split 1 to see exactly how this unfolds. Because I'm hoping, honestly, the pros are a little bit off, because it always makes like us feel good, because it's not like we always get everything wrong. Pros do too, all right? But that'll do it for me. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.